friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about energy infrastructure of Ukraine. During the previous 12 hours we received lots of very important updates on this matter. According to information we have, Russia is considering options for striking Ukrainian nuclear power plant substations, which can lead to complete collapse of the entire system. As for the morning of the 18th of January of 2026, pro-Ukrainian sources are saying that by the end of the winter, Russia could completely destroy all of the capital's generating capacity and Kiev simply won't be able to function. That was stated by Deputy Katsak. As for the morning of the 18th of January, there are two cities in Ukraine that have huge problems with energy. First is the city of Kiev and the second one is the city of Kharkiv. During the previous 12 hours, the mayor of Kharkiv made lots of very interesting statements on the matter. Kharkiv without power and heat, the energy system is on the brink of collapse, power facilities are seriously damaged. City mayor announced extremely serious damage to critical infrastructure following today's strike. Facilities in the industrial district which supply the city with heat and electricity were hit. He emphasized that this is not a localized emergency that can be quickly resolved. The damage has affected the city's life support system itself, and with each new strike, restoring centralized heat and electricity supplies becomes increasingly difficult. So the Russians continue bombing and attacking the territory of Ukraine, and currently they're focused on energy substations. Furthermore, during the previous 12 hours, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, Russians launched 201 drones, and the Ukrainians managed to bring down just 167 targets. And once again, the Russians continue attacking energy substations through the entire territory of Ukraine. As for the previous 12 hours, another video was published on this matter. This video was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how Russians were attacking substations through the southern part of Ukraine in the area of the city of Zaporozhye. So there were two substations that were hit by Russians. This is the first one, which is located in the area of the settlement of Vasilivka. And here we can see the second substation that was attacked by Russians. And this one is located in the area of the city of Zaporozhye itself. And furthermore, according to information we have, one of these substations is 750 kV substation Zaporozhye, which is one of the biggest one. So the situation is critical. Furthermore, we had a report that Russians yesterday attacked another substation in the area of the settlement by the name of Dobroslav. So we don't have a video, but maybe the Russians will publish. But we have a fire anomaly that is coming right exactly from this area. Furthermore, I would like to remind you that yesterday we already discussed the several attacks that were carried out by Russians. For example, this video was published from the area of the settlement of Bogodufov. Here we can see the same story. The Russian drone that was flying above another substation that was already damaged or even destroyed, and there was another video published from the area of the city of Kryvyi Rog. Here we can see the same story. The Russian drone was flying above another substation that was heavily damaged during the previous attack. So summarizing everything, during the previous 24 hours, pro-Russian sources published at least 4 videos of how they were damaging and destroying energy substations in the northeastern and the southern parts of Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation along the line of combat contact, and first let's talk about the Kharkiv direction. During the previous 24 hours, Russian sources published lots of very interesting updates from the area of the village of Novoberezovka, which is located to the southwest of the city of Kharkiv. So this, as you can see, there are lots of icons, and let's discuss these icons in details. This video was published once again by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how Russians, as a result of reconnaissance operation, managed to discover the position of a Patriot's launcher system and a radar. And as a result of several attacks, the Patriot system, as you can see, was completely destroyed. Furthermore, the Russians, according to this video, destroyed a launching system and destroyed a radar. So the Ukrainians have huge problems with air defense system, especially in the area of the city of Kharkiv, due to latest reports we've discussed. And now they have lost an air defense system that's served as the protection of the city, which means that the situation in this area will continue deteriorating. Now let's discuss the situation in the northwestern part of the Kharkiv region. If you remember, yesterday we discussed the video of how Russians destroyed the bridge in the area of the river of Volcha. So we discussed this video and we came to the conclusion that most likely the Russians destroyed the bridge with the purpose to launch a special operation in this area with the purpose to establish control over the settlements in this part of Kharkiv region. Once again, I would like to, as you can see, the bridge was destroyed, but once again, I would like to remind you that there is a river of Volcha, and there is just one place where the river could be crossed. We are talking about the settlement between the territory between the settlements of Varvarovka and Nikolaevka, and this bridge, as you've just seen, was destroyed. So basically, the settlements in the northeastern part of Kharkiv region, this one has become cut from the mainland. So, and we came to the conclusion that most likely the Russians will try to use the situation, and they destroyed the bridge for these purposes. They destroyed the bridge, and most likely the Russians were planning to launch infantry with the purpose to establish complete control over the territory. And today, pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see how first groups of the armed forces of the Russian Federation were crossing the border with the purpose to improve their positions in this area, and how Ukrainians were attacking Russians with FPV drones. So we believe that due to these updates, due to the situation, we believe that in coming days, the Russians will confirm their control over this territory, so everything to the north of this red line, and Russians will continue advancing further in the direction of the settlements of Bely Kolodez and the settlement of Vilkhovatka. So this is something like a third front line in the northeastern part of Kharkiv region. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, the Russians published a video where we can see how Russians established complete control over the settlement by the name of Zakitna. If you remember, the Russians reported, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that the settlement was captured 2 days ago, but 2 days ago they published nothing that could confirm this. Yesterday they published first video from the eastern part of the settlement, and there were a moment when the Russian soldier raised the flag, and today they published another video, and here we can see two more flags that were raised, this time in the most western part of the settlement. So currently we have no doubts that indeed the settlement of Zakitna was completely captured by the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Once again, this is the dynamic, this is the situation by the end of the 15th of January, this is the situation by the end of the 16th, this is the 17th, and this is the beginning of the 18th of January. So the Russians managed to establish complete control over the territory, and currently we start receiving reports that the Russians began advancing in the direction of the settlement of Kriva Luka. The Russians are trying to take and complete this territory, especially the Russians are focused to establish complete control over these strategical elevations. As you can see, there are lots of rocks, there are lots of let's say elevations, there are lots of trenches, lots of positions that Ukrainians are using as FPV drone operator bases. Most likely Russians will use them as well, the same purpose. And now the Russians are tasked to take on the complete control of the territory, and if the Russians are able to do this, of course, then they will begin advancing further in the western direction towards the settlement of Nikolaevka and towards the Slaviansk power station. As for the southern direction, Slaviansk direction, during the previous 12 hours we haven't received anything. Just once again, I would like to remind you that yesterday the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that the settlement of Privilya was captured. So we believe that today the Russians will confirm their control over the settlements of Minkovka or Golubovka. So once again, the Russians are about to finish the battle for the first defense layer of the Nikolaevka and the Slaviansk power station, let's say, line area. As for the Konstantinovka direction, during the previous 12 hours, as you can see, we adjusted the map. So this is the situation by the end of the 17th of January of 2026, and this is the beginning of the 18th. We colored almost everything to the south of the settlement of Vilenka based on the video that was published by a pro-Ukrainian source. Here we can see how Ukrainian FPV drone was attacking a Russian soldier that was moving along some tree lines and so on. So this is a Russian soldier, and Ukrainians attacked the soldier right exactly at this point. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that everything to the south either under control of the Russian forces or in the gray zone. So we adjusted the map and we see that reports that were published recently that the Russians improved their positions significantly around the settlement of Ilinka were correct. So the Russians continue their offensive operation in the direction of the village because Russians understand if they can answer the settlement of Ilinka, then we can start counting days before the entire city of Konstantinovka falls in Russian hands. As for the Dobropolye direction, still no actions. Both the Russians and the Ukrainians are regrouping and preparing themselves before the beginning of the major Russian offensive. As for the Dnipropetrovsk direction, during the previous 12 hours, the map has been adjusted, so these are the changes on the ground between the dates. We came to the conclusion that the Russians control this territory based on this video that was published by pro-Russian sources. Here we can see how a Russian soldier with explosives were moving through former positions of the armed forces of Ukraine, and how this Russian soldier was dropping the explosives inside of strongholds of the armed forces of Ukraine. So we can see several explosions, and the Russians, as you can see, finished the securing operation. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians managed to secure this territory, and we colored the northern part, the northeastern part of the city of the village of Ivanovka. Now the Russians have, now the road to the city of Novopolka is opened, and Russians will continue offensive operation with the purpose to establish complete control over the settlement of Novopavlovka as well. And from these positions, Russians may try to get deeper inside of the Dnipropetrovsk region. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 12 hours, the most important video came from the most western part of the city of Guliai-Polye. This video was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how several Ukrainian soldiers surrendered to the armed forces of the Russian Federation. Here we can see how these soldiers were moving towards positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation under control of FPV drones. So Ukrainians, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Ukrainians surrendered, and this episode took place on the western part of the settlement, which most likely means that Ukrainians from this dense network of the fortifications surrendered and they were taken by Russians towards a more reliable and safe place. So based on this video, we believe that in coming days, the territory to the west of the city of Guliai-Polye, which is now considered as a gray zone, would be colored in Russian color. And that's it for the short video. Military with Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.